I want to talk specifically on this slide just about the state trunk line system. So this is just the interstates, the M routes, and the US routes. The bars going up here is the size of the program going up. So you can see back here in 1997, that's the last time the gas tax was increased. So you can see the jump right there. And then there was an increase in the consumption of fuel. And that funding is based on a gallon of fuel being sold at 19 cents a gallon. So the consumption was going up. It hit about 2004, it peaked, and it's been dropping since. So the consumption of motor fuels, on a positive note, we're consuming less in the state and in the country. And it's a good thing unless your budget for maintaining the system is structured on selling motor fuels. That's the big disconnect here. It's a good thing we're using less fuel, but it's a bad thing if you're depending on that for plowing snow or for fixing guardrail. That's the reason we're in this problem. Now, interestingly enough, this happened, and the department built a number of well-needed projects all over the state. Some of them up here, Cadillac, Grand Rapids, Detroit, all over the state, and they bonded for them. $2.5 billion in bonds. $230 million of my budget goes to pay debt service every year. That's not available for fixing roads or bridges. It goes to pay debt service. That's for the next 20 years. So when did that kick in? You can see it on the chart. Right about here. Poof. Here's an increase. Here's more bonds. There's more bonds. And then this one, that's ARA. That's the stimulus dollars. That's where it shows up. Remember that discussion? We're going to fix all the nation's roads and bridges, remember? And it was a one-time shot in the arm, 1 year's worth of funding, and you can see it on that chart in 9 and 10. Right about here, we're back to about the normal program of what we can support. So carry it back this way. It's right about there. Without the bonding, that chart up above, which is the condition of the state trunk line system, wouldn't be there. Without the bonding, this would have been floating right about here. We'd have been sitting today with state trunk lines at about 75% good condition, which means 2,500 miles in really bad condition. So when you look at the state network and you say, oh, it's in pretty good shape. Okay, it's there because of bonding. That's the reason it's there. Now we got to pay for those bonds for the next 20 years. That's the downside. I watch my counterparts in other states that come up with this innovative way, and they're going to bond against future toll revenue off of a toll road. Really? Okay. That's just called bonding, and that means at some point you have less money to spend. It's not real innovative. It's called bonding. It's called borrowing from the future. Now, the other piece I want to talk about is this projection. Back in 1996, there was no place in the country that had a computer model for pavement deterioration. Nobody did it. You couldn't buy one. Actually, MDOT invented the first one. It was pretty crude, but it was the basis for how do assets deteriorate, and then what's going to happen projected forward as you invest in different scenarios. So over the last 15 years, that model's been tweaked, changed, and analyzed, and it's been calibrated backwards to say, how accurate is it? It's plus or minus 1%. So when we projected that in 2009, we probably said we're going to be at 90% good. We actually were at 91% good. That's the same model that we're using going forward that projects that we're going to be back about 75% in about 2 years. I have a pretty high level of comfort that that's accurate, because for 15 years going backwards, it's been plus or minus 1%. It's going to happen. It really is. This one goes a step further. This is the federal aid system. So this now takes in all the state trunk lines, plus county primary roads, plus city major streets. Frankly, that's the network that 99% of all commercial activity happens on. It's the federal aid system. Those of you in the audience from road commissions know those are your most important roads. When you've got money, those are the ones that you're making sure are kept in the best condition. This is actual data. This is not a computer projection. This is data from the Asset Management Council of road commission employee, city employee, MDOT employee riding 43,000 miles of roads and assessing them. The green is good, back to 2004 through 12. The middle column is fair. The last column is poor. Really speaks for itself, doesn't it? The number of poor roads is going up much, much faster than the good and fair are going down. I mean, it is just accelerating. I refer to this slide as the canary in the mine. If we were miners right now, the canary would be flopping on the floor because there's no air to breathe. All right, he's about ready to die. He's still alive. Yep, everything. Oh, look, the canary's fine. He's still breathing. Not very good. That's where we're at, folks. This is what's headed. We're headed for this disaster, and we can choose to act now and spend $1, or we can stick our head in the sands and expect later to spend a lot more. The last slide here is we can pay now or pay later. Remember I told you we were down here? We're headed right here. And these are pretty actual numbers. If we can choose to do nothing, and we can follow that red path all the way to the bottom. And in 2025, when we could have spent, or let's pick 2023, we could have spent $10 billion to keep, this is just the state trunk line system. This does not deal with county primary roads, city major streets, just the state trunk line system. $10 billion to keep it in that condition, or do nothing, get to 2023, then decide to do it and spend $25 billion, just the state trunk line system, to get back to a state of good repair. Now add on top of that, what's the county system, county primary system, city major street system that moves 99% of all commercial activity in the state. That number will probably double. That's not even adjusted for inflation. That's today's dollars. We did that on purpose so that people wouldn't, you know, this is a very conservative number. That number will be well above that. At the end of the day, people are real worried about the deficit at the national level. This is the deficit that we're leaving our kids right now. The generation before us, the veterans generation, built this wonderful transport network to move people and goods around the country. The me generation, the boomer generation, has not paid to keep it up. We inherited this wonderful system and we're just using it all up. And what we're giving our kids is something for them to start over with. Really? That's the best we can do? We have this huge infrastructure deficit that we're passing on. It really is very simple. We either maintain what we got or we expect our kids to have to pay a lot more later.